Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Building Your Life podcast with John Browning. I have a special guest with me again today. His name is Stu Morris, and he has a new book coming out, The Power, Influence, and Purpose. So fuel your power, leverage your influence, and clarify your purpose. And it's coming out, I believe, probably just before this episode comes out in early October. Is that right?
Probably about November
November.
1st. We got 3-4 weeks of editing and some little copywriting touches to make. And yeah, editors, they've already changed the cover of the book.
So. Of course. There's some people, it's what the book looks like to get the people to pick it up, and then they have to turn, each page will it get them to the next page, right? That's
right.
When I wrote Build a Life, Not a Portfolio, that's what they said. If you can make it interesting enough that by the end of the page that they want to turn to that next page, then they'll actually read the book. And I said, well, that's the reason I wrote. I didn't just write the book to write a book. I wanted people to read it and learn. So let's do that.
That's true. My first published work was Dementia Caregiver Mistakes. And because that's where I got my start in working with families and folks with cognitive in cognitive decline. And at the bottom of every page, I said, turn the page for $1. You'll find $1 on the next page. And the publisher didn't think it was funny at all.
Yeah, it's funny how people don't think it's funny. I thought it was good.
You told me to compel them to turn the page. How about $1?
How about $1? That's right. And if it's a long book, you're in good shape.
That's true. Writing a 1,000-page book. John, your audience must love your show. And I do. I really enjoy your show. It's very good. It's very insightful and usable, super usable information. And thanks for doing your show. Thanks for having me on. What a pleasure.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to talk about what we're talking about today because a lot of what we talk about here on the Building Your Life portfolio, Building Your Life podcast is about money and numbers and all that kind of stuff. And I try and mix it up a little bit with some of the things that are real to life, and they're really about that first part, which is the most important part, which is build a life, not just a portfolio. Because if you don't have other things, besides money, then money really is meaningless, right? So one of the things that I know you talk a lot about, and you just mentioned it here, is the whole idea of cognitive decline. And my wife and I ran a business called Home Helpers for 7 years up in Chicago. And we dealt with a lot of folks in cognitive decline. There's a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of frustration on the part of the family and the part of the people who are going through that. But I know in your new book, you're talking a lot more about neuroplasticity, which I can barely pronounce. So I would love it if you could, first of all, just tell people, number one, what is neuroplasticity and why is it so important that we talk about it and learn about it?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. John, neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to change and adapt from learning and change and adapt over time by everything it brings in through its 5 senses. Okay, all your 5 senses. So it changes what we call neuropathways. So a neuropathway is a thought. And since it's a thought, then it's a belief, it's a value, it's a guiding principle for you. It's also 1,000 subconscious things. Like I fell asleep last night, and then not one time did I wake up and go, is my heart beating? It's autonomic, right? So your brain handles a myriad of things, thousands, millions of things, without you ever thinking about it. Your eyes are lubricated and tears are flowing, and you can see just fine because that's all being taken care of by your brain without you ever thinking about it, subconsciously or autonomically is more accurate. So neuroplasticity is the the study of, or actually the realization of, that the brain can change that neural pathways can change over time, which kind of now over the last 70 years, we kind of know that a little bit, especially over the last 20 years. But 70 years ago, 50 years ago, that was a huge, everybody thought you're 20, 30, you're 20 years old, you're done. Your brain is done expanding. It's done learning. You're not a kid anymore. And you really, you can't really teach an old dog new tricks. It's kind of where that came from, is because we really believe that the brain was static after that. And it's not. We can now prove it. Neuroscientifically, we can prove that your brain is elastic. It grows and changes over time. And since it does grow and change over time, we can use scientific principles or neuroscientific principles to change those thoughts, change those beliefs, change those habits, and you can change your life. And it's not a big process of, oh my gosh, I got to get out there and get new habits and just defeat all these old habits and climb this huge mountain. And no, it's, you remember the habit? You remember when you created the habit of tying your shoes? No, that's an automatic one, right? Driving a car, there's like 25 different things you got to do to drive a car. Do you even think about it anymore? You're halfway unconscious driving to work. So habits are just a critical part of what your brain does to allow you to enjoy life, so you don't have to think about tying your shoes or opening a doorknob or, opening a can of soup or going to the grocery store or driving to work. And because those habits are formed like that, then we can now change them much easier. We know the scientific principles behind that. So neuroplasticity is just essentially the ability to change neural pathways, the ability to adapt and grow your neural pathways. And a neural pathway is a thought, a feeling, a value, a habit. And so it's pretty exciting science right now. It's between 300, 350 new papers, white papers, discoveries, research studies are being completed every year. So about one a day. I mean, it's a burgeoning field for sure, and there's a lot to talk about. It's really cool to be on the inside of it, because there's just so much. There's always just these new breakthroughs going on. There's always a lot to talk about. The newsletter business is booming because there's just something every day. Yeah,
right.
So it's a lot of fun.
Now, if you, like you said, there's a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of stuff out there on this. And, I have that in my industry where we talk about financial services, we talk about ideas, and some of the old ideas that we thought were true or maybe were true at the time, they aren't anymore because things have changed and all that. So how do you sift through what's real, what's not real, and maybe what traps can we fall into? Because as we get, this, my hair kind of went from gray, now it's like turning white. I was like, okay, is it this inevitable thing that we're going to go into cognitive decline? And we got seems like a million different things. We can pop a pill, we can do anything to try and make ourselves not have that cognitive decline. But I think what you're saying is it's maybe there's some things out there true, maybe some things aren't. I know you can't do it all today, but can you clarify a little bit, maybe help our audience out? What's real, what's fake, what works?
Sure. Well, that's a very good question. As with anything, there's always somebody who wants to make a little hocus pocus out of it or whatever. So what's fake? I don't know for sure all the stuff that's fake, but anybody who tells you you can do this in moments a day with no work, and that's not how you develop a habit, right? Now, we also have a belief. There's two huge beliefs that you just need to just get over in your life, right? One is you can't train an old dog, or you can't teach an old dog new tricks. That's this idea that, you forget something, you become a little, mildly forgetful and stuff like that. You're like, oh, I'm older. This is just happening. This is the way it is. So that belief, that's got to change. That's the biggest hurdle we have. And then the idea of a habit. Oh, this is, I have this bad habit, and how am I ever going to break this bad habit? And it's so huge and such a mountain to climb. And nope, your brain naturally makes habits. You didn't have to teach your brain how to make habits, just like you didn't have to teach your brain how to make sure your heart's beating when you're asleep, right? It's a natural process. So we just really encourage people. It's like our call to action is use your own natural neurology to change your neuroplasticity to think and behave and act and have values and habits that are empowering for you rather than ones that aren't. And it's no different than learning to tie your shoe. You didn't think, oh my gosh, this shoe again, I got to tie this sucker. After a while, it just became a habit. So it's just simple learning processes. They're easy to do. And that's the problem. They're easy to do, so they're easy not to do. Jim Rome said that. I don't think I ever forgot it. He's just been a real key insight in my life, Jim Rome. And so, yeah, I mean, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And so since it's easy not to do them, it's awfully easy just to nestle in and, watch 15 episodes of something on Netflix or something, right? Which I know this is a little bit off the topic, sort of off the topic, but they came up with a study a few years ago, and they wired a person's brain up just outside their brain. And so they put a halo around them, and they watched the neuroenergy of eating a saltine cracker. And then they watched the neuroenergy used, what the brain used for watching television. Oh, no. And the cracker had more, right? So when you just watch television, it just turns your brain off. It just sits there and relaxes. It doesn't have to do anything. It doesn't have to think. It doesn't. And it's. I'm not saying don't. Here comes the hate mail. Bring it.
I know.
Right?
Yep.
So I'm telling you, I'm not saying I love a good movie. So I'm not saying to stop watching TV. But just know when you're watching TV, your brain is turned off. Like there's more neuroenergy used in eating a saltine cracker than there is watching TV. There's time to turn your brain off. I'm not saying not to, but keep that in perspective when you're watching 15 shows in a row or whatever.
I know. Well, I actually use that phrase. My wife and I will get to the end of the day. It's been a long day. I said, you know what? I just need to turn my brain off.
Yeah.
I will literally use that. And you know what we do? We watch a show.
We watch a show.
Because that does turn your brain off.
Yeah. Luckily for me, Julie likes like finding fossils and going out to digs, and she goes all over the world and does these things. And so when we watch something, it's always like some documentary. So
that's going to be,
even when I'm trying to turn my brain off, that woman is still making me learn.
Still making me learn.
God bless her.
See, our partners are important, aren't they?
They are. I tell you what, I'd probably be living on the beach. And I mean, like on the sand, if it wasn't for her. I'd have a little hovel over there.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's just it's really important to understand too that because I hear it all the time, especially as my friends get older, because I'm getting older, and we joke around, we can't find our keys or we can't find our glasses. My favorite one is when I have my glasses on like this, I can't find them. They're right here, but I can't find them.
So often.
And we joke about it, right? And there's this little point, it's like, oh man, does this really have to happen? So what are some tactics and things that we
that's a great point.
Sure it doesn't happen?
The key there is neuroplasticity and what we call cognitive longevity, right? The brain can keep evolving. So huge. It's something you need to believe because it is the truth. Many people think that cognitive decline is just inevitable. It's just a part of aging. But science and neuroplasticity shows that our brains absolutely have the capacity to change. They can adapt. They can grow throughout our entire lifetime. People can live they can learn in the very last day of their life. It's absolutely the truth. Simple, consistent habits can boost cognitive resilience. So keep you mentally sharper and more resilient, more rubbery. It can keep you sharper, mentally agile, well as you're getting older. So I mean, that's pretty relevant because, building your financial portfolio over time, investing in mental habits will enhance long-term brain health. And so you can compare how small daily mental exercises like strategic financial investments can yield dividends in cognitive longevity. I tried to tie that into that.
That was good. That was
money
good.
speak.
I like it.
Thank you. Thank you. wrote that last night.
That was good. Yes, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But it's true, right? I mean,
It is.
you
Yep.
invest in going to the gym. It doesn't happen overnight. You invest in your portfolio. It doesn't happen overnight. You invest in your brain health. It's what I'm imagining is what you eat. It's what you think.
Sure. Huge.
You are what you think about most of the time. As a Brian Tracy line, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And he was right. And he was right way ahead of his time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The psychology of selling was a neuroplasticity monument. And I remember people snickering at it. And I thought, just working for me. I mean, I don't know, and now we have the science behind it, and they had the science then. It was just harder to get to, with the internet and stuff like that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. And that, when you were, let's say a year old, you fell down 1,000 times, literally 1,000 times a month. Learning to walk, you fell down about 47 times a day, 1,000 times a month, right?
Yep.
You didn't lay on the ground going, oh my gosh, I'm never going to walk. And what's the ever to be, right? You just got up and kept trying. And you know what a big difference was in your life is your folks, when they watched you take that first step and your dad was so excited or your mom was so fired up and you took that first step and then you plopped down, they all screamed and yelled, yeah, you took your first step. And none of them said, oh my gosh, you fell down, you're a loser, right? We didn't know to reinforce that habit of failure. So fear is internal. It's hardwired into us, right? The fight or flight, the saber-toothed tiger, run, right? Get the children next, but run for sure, right?
Yes.
And so that saved us when there was saber-toothed tiger. So it's not super empowering right now because we tend to be afraid of things that we don't need to be afraid of. But that's an internal fear. But failure, that's learned. When you were a little kid, you didn't think, oh gosh, I'm never going to walk, right? Failure can absolutely be overcome. It's learned behavior. And
that is such a good point.
That ties right into that 100%.
That is such an amazing point. I'm glad you made it because it's just, number one, it's just so incredibly true. And as you know, and we know this, right? As most of us as parents, we know this because we know to encourage our kids, hey, it's okay. It's okay. You know what? You struck out. It's fine. You tried. You get, and you keep going. And of course, we can overdo that as well. With the participation trophies and everything. But sorry, I just got a little bit political there. Didn't mean to. Sorry, but
no, it's totally true though. This idea of trophies for everyone is ruining our neuroplasticity wise. It's there's no winners and losers, and so there's no reason to improve. If you can come in last and still be celebrated for it, there's less of a chance to improve in that, right?
Right.
And so
it's a balance.
There's definitely some science behind that to be made.
Yeah. And I love that with like you bring it back to investing, right? And when you're first starting out, it just seems like you're such a failure, right? And you see on social media, everybody else has a nicer car or they're traveling wherever and then it's so much better. It's because people only put the positive stuff there, and then we all begin to feel like a little bit of a failure, right? Because we're all actually fairly close to normal, if you do the air quotes, right? If you're watching on YouTube, and we have our ups and then we have our downs, but getting into that mindset of sort of that understanding of celebrate the wins, learn from the losses, and learning is okay. Learning is okay. Good.
Absolutely. And I think that's really one of the advantages of being an author is I can be pretty weird and people are like, he's a creative, just leave him alone, he's over there doing his thing or whatever.
Right.
I get away with a lot that way. And that came, I just wanted to I wanted to say that, and by saying that I lost the next point I was going to say because I was going to tie it in. But I had to take that opportunity to be a smart aleck. So I couldn't help myself.
Well, we were just talking right before we started recording here. We were talking about the interview that I had listened to over this weekend. It was an older interview. It was with Charlie Munger, and I forget who the interviewer was. Sorry to that person. But what he was saying to this younger interviewer is that what he learned over time was that it was harder to teach new dogs new tricks than it was to teach old dogs new tricks, which is a whole different spin on the way we have heard that phrase for so long. But I think, this is just me thinking, I don't know, it's opinion, is that when we're younger, we don't realize how much we don't know.
Right.
And as we're older, I think we actually have a greater capacity to learn, but maybe you can correct me on that.
I doubt I can correct you, but you're right on that. At least the science seems to be able to back that up in terms of habits, because habits is a natural thing that the brain does. So it's not, you don't have to create something new or some new platform or whatever. A habit is something the brain naturally does. And we have seen that. There is no time in your life that, well, I don't want to say that. That's a little broad. There was no time in my life that I was so certain I was right than when I was 20. Right. So, yes. I mean, I just, you know everything. Right. And then maybe you hit 40, 50, 60, and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. Right. The more I know I need to learn. And so what they did this study, and I wish I just had it right in front of me right here. I could quote it a little better, but they did a study with entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs over 51 far exceeded, like 7x exceeded entrepreneurs in their 20s, because they didn't give up as easy. They expected failure to come and were looking to learn from it. What was another insight there? They just didn't give up. They were more tenacious. And there was a number of really good points. But the fact of the matter is, the older you are, the better you are. The older you are, the more neuroplastic you can become. The older you are, the more habits that are empowering you can create. The older dog you are, the more new tricks you can learn. And science has served that one up to us on a platter. That's good for me, because I'm on the other end of that. I'm on the 40, 50, 60-year-old side now, instead of the 20-year-old side. But there's, really two things. You don't know. You're never so certain about what you know when in your 20s. Right. And the other thing is, there is nothing you believe more than the words that come out of your mouth. And a lot of times we say things, oh, I'm such a failure. Oh, I'm hard-headed or stubborn. Or what we say, we believe. Your brain just that's automatic. And so you got to be very careful with what you say and what you believe. And I think maybe when we were younger, that might be the one advantage, is I got the whole world ahead of me and I can do whatever I want and I'm always right. And so that's a kind of a good way to think about that. But yep, as you get older, you get better. I'm saying that every day. Wake up, there's a big smile on the ceiling when I wake up. You're getting better today.
Well, and just about all the coaches out there that I know, and I'm friends with a lot of them, they tell me, right, I have a hard time doing it because I just feel silly, right? But literally saying what you want in front of a mirror, and actually talking to yourself. People used to say, well, the guy's talking to himself, he must be crazy. Actually, they're probably the smartest people, right? Because they were literally verbalizing things, to your point, that literally changes your mind. And if you're a negative self-talk person, it's going to change it to be more negative. And we tend towards negativity as humans, I think. It's the way I see it. Yeah. And if we're not doubly talking to ourselves and to our loved ones in a positive way, I think we're falling behind, right?
Oh, John, you hit on like a dozen just really good points right there. And yes, absolutely, 100%. You can go into the locker room of the Notre Dame football team, and none of them are sitting around watching TV before the game. No. They're looking in the mirror, they're screaming at themselves, they're slapping, they're hitting each other. And we know that habits are formed really with two critical pieces of habit formation. One is repetition. You keep doing it, you keep doing it, you keep doing it, and it becomes a habit. The second is intense, highly emotional states this kind of comes, a cat walks over a hot stove, doesn't walk over the stove again, hot or cold, right? So when it's in a tense emotional state, it really sticks to you. So you can think of a neuroplasticity or a neural pathway as walking through a nice grass field, right? They just cut the grass on the football field, and you're walking across it, and you turn around on the other side of the football field, and you look, and you can see your footprints in it. But if you come the next day, the grass pops back up. So that little pathway you made was good, but there's not a lot to it, right? But when you increase that with a lot of emotional intensity, it's like driving a Mack truck across the field and putting a big ditch, with the tires of the truck. It's like putting a big divot in the football field all the way across it. And that's not going away for a long time. And so highly intensive emotional states will create habits instantly. Actually, every decision is just a neural pathway. A decision is a neural pathway. And every decision you've ever made happened in a moment. Now, you might have fretted about it and worried about it and stressed about it and thought about it for years ahead of time. But when you actually made the decision, it's made in a moment. All decisions are. So, yep, that's 100% is what you say to yourself, how you say it, how you keep emotional intensity to it, and how many times you repeat it. That's another thing, being an author, being kind of creative is, they expect me to be weird. I can look in the mirror and go, you're going to do this. You can do this. You can do it. Like, it's just Stu. He's being weird over there. I'm like, yep. The difference is I live on the beach.
There you go. You can do that, right?
So I got to go surfing and fishing and everything else. And you should have talked to yourself in the mirror. You'd be out here surfing with me right now.
That's right. Yeah, you're down to Southern California, right?
Yeah, Northern California.
Northern
Cal. It's a different state. California is northern and southern.
yeah, kind of. Yeah, that's true.
Yep, I'm in the northern California on the coast here, near San Francisco. We're like within an hour of San Francisco. We don't go.
You don't go to San Francisco, but it's there. It's there.
We've heard of it.
That's good. We'll just leave that there.
Actually, Julie just bought tickets for Christmas stuff. So, I mean, if you want to go to San Francisco, go for the shows and all that kind of stuff. So we just bought Christmas tickets for, I don't know what we're seeing, but, plays and, the Nutcracker and all that kind of stuff. That's the place to see it.
That's the place to go.
Yeah. Great place for the arts, for sure.
Yeah, we used to say that when we lived in Chicago, we were in the burbs, and I would go downtown for works. I'd have to go downtown for work, but other than that, we didn't go downtown Chicago very often.
Yeah, I'm with you. As a matter of fact, the only thing I can think of is to go to Chicago for is to land there so you can get to Kankakee, so you can watch the high school basketball championships, because that is some of the best ball players in the world.
Yeah,
right there in Kankakee, just mind blowing. Like, you walk into the gym and see these world class future Olympians. Kind of thing. Yeah.
It's really fascinating. I mean, you talk about that. That's part of our habits too, right? Is we kind of learn what we like, what we don't like.
Oh man. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you could leave the Building Your Life audience with one thing to remember, to put that big divot in, as far as to encourage them to build their best life. We say build your best life using the tool we call money, because that's all it is. It's a tool in which, and if you develop the habit of using it as a tool rather than using it as this is life, right? Money is life. If you develop the habit of realizing and changing your mindset that it's a tool that you can use just like a hammer to build your best life,
right?
What could you leave our audience with that would help them build their best life, understanding better the power, influence, purpose, neuroplasticity? How can they get better?
Oh, that's a good question. So I tell you what, okay, well, this is one of those things where being an author is an advantage. You asked me for one thing. If I could give you two things that will kind of do that. So let's say like financial decision-making and neuroplasticity, right? That's probably something your audience would be interested in. And how you can get better with age. Okay, so the ability to make sound financial decisions actually improves with age, just like entrepreneurship, right? And by keeping your brain active and engaged in problem solving, particularly through like learning and critical thinking, adults, right, kids, anybody really, brains can maintain more endurance with their decision making abilities. So here, that kind of ties into your focus on financial independence and planning for retirement. So I would just emphasize that staying cognitively sharp will improve that ability to make wise financial decisions when you really start needing them, right? You don't tend to utilize those wise financial decisions until later on in life, right? So, and then I would say actively learning and continuous growth, right? That is the key. So neuroplasticity is thinking, a neural pathway is thinking, right? And so the keys to a legacy of impact that continuous learning and growth is one of the most powerful ways to harness neuroplasticity. And through active learning, that can be anything. You want to play the guitar, learn 3 chords, right? This week I'm going to learn this 1 chord and just work on it every day. Or I'm going to learn French. I don't know why, but learn something, learn a new language, something interesting.
Do something that you're interested in, though, right? It's like if you hate Sudoku or however you pronounce it, if you hate that, don't do it.
Don't do it if you don't like it. Then do crossword puzzles. Or for me, I was just talking to Julie about this weekend, that every time I've learned something, I was thinking back on it. And when I really learned something a lot that was really great and I really got a lot out of it, it was fun. For me, gaming and fun is a whole thing we're putting together in another book, is gaming theory and neuroplasticity, and how to learn and have fun while you're learning to improve your neuroplasticity. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of research behind it. And so find something that you want to do that you're going to be able to have a lot of fun learning, and you would just enjoy increasing your neuroplasticity. And that's the way to harness that through active learning. And that's, acquiring new skills, learning a language, staying curious in your industry or in your investments. Continuous learning, it strengthens the brain. So this approach of continuous learning, this should be able to help you, create a legacy just by sustaining those cognitive abilities. It'll help you be able to do that, but also by modeling lifelong learning to others, because you're going to leave a legacy behind. So this is relevant because, as you say in your message, John, about building a life that's more than just financial wealth. It's about creating lasting value. And so I would just encourage, those leaders, those entrepreneurs, those people in your audience to see that brain health, see it as a foundational element of their personal and professional legacy, because it will be. And so maybe those 2 things kind of answer that last thing I'd leave you with.
Yeah, no, that was great. Now I caught one thing really stood out to me when you said that, just learn 3 chords. Because you don't have to become Eric Clapton over the weekend, or Joe Bonamassa or something like that. But if you enjoy it and you think it'd be cool, just try and learn it. Give it a shot. And you know what? Here's the crazy thing, right? Is if you learn, I happen to know this, if you learn 4, 5 chords and you learn rhythm, you can play almost anything.
That's right. That's right. That's why I can learn 50 chords and still not do it, because I got no rhythm.
That's right.
You're absolutely right. When you were learning to walk, you didn't think about being an Olympian. You just, next step. What's the next step? And so have a lot of grace. And when you've run out of grace for yourself, just find another scoopful. Just have a lot of grace for yourself and give yourself a lot of leeway, and fail yourself for it, as John Maxwell says. Just this, you're going to learn from. I always say there's no failure unless you quit. So you failure is a dead end, but mistakes is what you learn from. So quit. You're not having a failure. You're not a failure. You're making a mistake, and you're learning from your mistakes, which is the difference between learning and wisdom. Is when I make a mistake, I learn from it. That's learning. When John makes a mistake and I learn from John's mistake, that's wisdom. Okay, so
there you go.
You can learn from other people's mistakes and move yourself along there, but have a lot of grace with yourself. A lot of grace. You didn't give up when you were a little kid learning to walk. Just try to get back to that idea of like, okay, I I can do this, and I didn't get it right the first time. Well, welcome to the club. Well, nobody did, so it's okay.
That's right. Yeah,
and
no, I love that you brought up John Maxwell too. One of my absolute favorite people in the world. His quote is what? Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn.
Yep. And we tend to learn a lot. Like when we win, we tend to party. And I think Anthony Robbins said this: when we win, we tend to party. When we lose, we tend to ponder. And so it's right. True. It's just think about it. Think things through, and just be careful what you ponder on. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't get it done, and ponder on that. Okay, you didn't get it done. What did you learn? Right? How can you get better? Simple things, and they're all on page 16 of the book.
There you go. All right. Where is the best place for them to go and get a copy of your book? What's the best place to go? We're going to put it in the show notes, folks, but just in case, it's the best place to go.
Well, definitely the best place to go to get the book is come to California and go to Maverick Surf Shop, and you can buy it. Because the owner of Maverick Surf Shop started the Mavericks Big Wave Invitational, which people come from all over the world to surf our 40-foot waves right there, right down off the coast. And so it's fun to get it there, because if you come here and get it, then you can have dinner with me at Catch, which is just next door. And Catch Stands is a 50-year-old eatery here on the harbor, at Pillar Point Harbor, and it's just delicious. And so come and get the book. Come to California, get the book. There's Disneyland down the road.
There you go.
just 4 or 5 hours from here, you can go to Disneyland. But it's it's available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Apple Books, Google Books, 50 some plus aggregators. It's like 1,000. It's 1,000 places. If you Google Power, Influence, Purpose, I'd be impressed if you couldn't find it. We're on the 3rd page probably, but still,
but it's there.
we're there. But you always definitely go to over51.com and go right to our link. What we did too recently is with Power, Influence, Purpose, we had this course that did really well for us, a $250 course, and it just people really liked it. We got a lot of feedback, and we've changed it over time and made it more cutting edge, and as new technologies are learned. And what we did is you buy the book for, I don't know what they've settled on yet, $20, $25, whatever the book is. You get the $250 course free. So we've revamped the whole thing. If you go to cognitivehealthspan.com right now, it's probably under construction, but by the time you are listening to this or watching this, you go to cognitivehealthspan.com and you'll be able to see what the course is about. But if you buy the book, you get the access to the $250 course for free as part of the book, with the manual, the workbook, and the whole downloadable PDFs and the whole kit and caboodle. Not to mention just the community. Over51.com is a clearinghouse of neuroplasticity information and how-tos and checklists and shortcuts and the newest, latest, greatest, cutting-edge technology available. And it's I thought it would be kind of a fun little informational page, and it's turned into a movement. I mean, people.
I love it.
It's a movement for people over 51. There's a lot of it, man, and we're big on keeping our brains healthy, and so it's an entire. It's go meet 10,000 of your best friends. They're right there. Yeah. Actually, about 50,000 of your best friends. So
wow.
Yeah, over 51.com is a lot of fun. Yeah, I don't know what the last count was, but it's nuts. And it's just like, it was like 2 and then 3 and then 5 and then 15 and then 200, then 500, then 2,000 and then 10,000. And you're like, whoa, just blowing up. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to find something people really want to learn about, and I love teaching it. It's from when I was probably about 5 years old. Yeah, my Nana, she got me started, so it's all her fault. God bless her. She was amazing. Yeah.
All right. So over51.com, the fuel your power, leverage your influence, and clarify your purposes. 10 questions to define your legacy. And folks, if you aren't regular members of the Building Your Life podcast, you can always find me at guardianrockwealth.com or text the word life. Just grab your phone, hit the text 321-421-5213, the word life, and you get all kinds of free information and a nice way to contact me and even get some time directly on my calendar. Nice. So Stu, thanks so much. Yeah. This has been a lot of fun. Pleasure. This has been great, and I learned a lot, and I did some neuroplasticity while we were talking.
You sure did.
And I'm looking forward to reading your book too. It's going to be great.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much, John. It was a real treat. I had a lot of fun.
All right. And folks, we'll see you next time on the Building Your Life podcast.